You're listening to the Small Business Talk podcast with Cathy Smith, episode 69.
Small Business Talk is a podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs who want a better way to run their businesses without spending years doing it the hard way. Small Business Talk is hosted by Cathy Smith, who has run the same marketing agency for more than 17 years and helped hundreds of business owners achieve their marketing goals.
Welcome to Small Business Talk. Today, my guest is Emma Carver, and M is from M's Forever Lips. Welcome, M.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And today we're going to be talking about how real customer service is more than just lip service. So, M, maybe you should tell our audience what Forever Lips is.
So M's Forever Lips is my makeup and skincare business. I offer vegan-friendly, cruelty-free makeup that's long-lasting. So my lipstick is the stuff that doesn't smudge off, and neither does the eyeshadow and eyeliners.
Perfect. And it's a pity that the audience can't see you because you're beautifully dressed up with your gorgeous lipstick and very vibrant eyeshadow. That would be wonderful for our audience to see, but they will see on the show notes image a beautiful shot of you. Being in the makeup skincare, obviously customer service is really important. So why do we think that everybody says, oh, I've got such great customer service, but when you go to their business or deal with their business online, it's not always the case. So what do you think we should be doing to think about how we can really do good customer service?
I think everybody's opinion of customer service tends to be a little bit different. And we'd all like to think that we're doing the right things. And sometimes our ego can get in the way. Although we might think, yes, I give the best customer service, if you haven't actually sat down and thought about the experience that you're giving your customer, it's not always the case.
And I think that's so true that sometimes we actually need to walk in our customers' shoes and be on the other side of the counter or be on the other side of that online interaction to see how it actually happens. So you've ordered your product. Does it actually turn up? Does it appear in a box that's the way it looked like it should have been? Has it been damaged? All of those kind of supply lines that sometimes we forget that it's not just a case of the person ordering the product.
Definitely. And I think sometimes it actually takes for us to have a bad customer service experience ourselves going out and about in our day-to-day business for us to actually understand, I didn't appreciate that experience. That wasn't very good. And sometimes it just takes that to make us reevaluate how we actually show up with our customers and the experience that we are providing. I'll tell you a little story. I used to work in a retail industry. This was a great experience, really, because now I have hindsight and I can look back and think, do you know what? That was fantastic. Because what I experienced within this particular retail environment was how not to treat customers, which at the time, as I'm sure many of you can appreciate, when you work somewhere and it doesn't resonate with you how things are run, it can be very difficult. But now I can look back and I can use that experience and I can say, hey, do you know what? I am never going to show up in that way. And I'm never going to put my customer in those positions, the same positions that I witnessed in this other environment. I also think it's very important to always try and change your perception. A bad experience can actually be made into a positive experience. For example, what I just said, it was a bad experience at the time for me. However, I can look back now and I've learned so much, and I'm actually very grateful for having that experience because it helped me learn.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing too, that sometimes people don't realise that they need to see what's not good so that they can make sure that they are doing what is good. And sometimes you think that that's okay, I'm doing this particular thing and I've done it for years and it's great, but that becomes the new normal, not the exceptional. So you then need to keep pushing that bar higher and higher. What do you think that the listeners should be doing in regards to customer service? Do you have a few tips that they could use in their businesses?
I do. And like you mentioned earlier, it's really just putting yourselves in that customer's shoes. So a lot of the time when we are liaising with our customers, everything runs smoothly and it's all hunky-dory. And it's normally when there is some kind of objection or some kind of disappointment that things then will become a little bit more difficult. And that's when customer service really needs to step up quite a few notches, and we need to turn an possibly unhappy customer back into a happy customer. And the way in which I can advise people to do that is by controlling your emotions a little bit. Now, that sounds a little bit strange, really, doesn't it, for me to talk about emotions? However, if you think about it this way, especially if you're running your own business, your business is your baby and you have worked so hard. You've worked day and night. You've put effort, you've put time, you've, blood, sweat and tears into this project, and you feel very emotionally connected to your business. Sometimes if you have some kind of objection or you experience something negative with a customer, your first emotion can be hurt or it can be anger sometimes, because it's almost as though this amazing project, your business, your baby, is being attacked. It's somebody is not happy and they are telling you, I'm not happy with, maybe it's a product or maybe it's a service that you have provided. So quite often your go-to response will be like a negative one. And it's very important to take a breath. Maybe not an audible breath, because that can be interpreted very differently. But it's very important to take a breath and recognize that you have those emotions, okay? But then you put them to one side. It's okay to obviously experience those emotions, maybe, the hurt, the anger, whatever it is, but you don't have to invite them to the ball. I hope you understand what I mean by that. They don't have to come out and play. Then you need to objectively deal with what it is that the customer is having an objection about. And again, stand in their shoes. They've paid you for a product or a service. They had an expectation. And if that expectation was not met, they are experiencing disappointment, anger. They even may be hurt as well. It's important to realize that if you meet your customer with the same emotions that they are experiencing, you're not going to have a good outcome. So you need to meet the objection on a more positive kind of level, and you need to be proactive. It's great to sympathize with the customer if you have the ability to sympathize with what they're talking about, and offer them a solution. That is why your customer is coming to you with an objection, because they are looking for a solution. Most people are not coming to you just because they want to be a pain in the bum. You're always going to have the odd few, but they are rare and far between. Your customers are looking for a solution. They are looking to you because you are the expert in your field. You are the expert in your product and in your service. They are looking to you for help. So you need to be meeting them with the help and the expectations that they deserve.
And you actually should see that as a gift, that they're coming to you to complain, because a lot of people won't actually do that. They'll just complain to all their friends. They won't actually come to you and give you the opportunity to rectify the problem and give you a solution. And another thing you said there is about meeting expectations. So sometimes it can be not that the product or the service is not actually good. It's the expectations that weren't set correctly. So if somebody's expecting something to be urgent, and to them urgent means 1 or 2 days, but to you urgent means 4 or 5 days, then that expectation is not going to be met and they're going to be upset. So sometimes it's a case of, in the actual sales process, is making sure that the expectations are clearly set out. So if it's something that's out of stock and it's going to take several weeks, then you need to let them know that. And they might decide not to buy and you might lose a sale, but then you're not going to have an unhappy customer because they wanted it for the ball or the 21st or the whatever it was that was in a week.
Absolutely. And communication really is key with what I do. So I provide a product, but I'm also providing a service because I am showing people how to use the products. I need to communicate with those customers what it is that they should be expecting from the product that I am providing them. I kind of live by this. It's a little saying, and you may have heard it before. It goes like this: under promise and over deliver. Now, that might be something that you've heard time and time again, but for those of you who haven't, basically it just means that you're not going to be promising the world and then disappointing the customer. So you may be a little bit not quite as enthusiastic with explaining what's going to happen. So for instance, if I know that this product is going to arrive within 3 days, I will say to that customer, I will have this product for you within the week. So I'm allowing myself the 7 days. And then what happens is when I contact that customer and say, hey, guess what? Your product's in already. Can I come and deliver it to you? That instantly makes them feel like, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting it. I have delivered more than their expectations. So it makes them happy. So I know that is a phrase that a lot of you have probably heard before, but it's one to kind of keep in the back of your mind because it definitely helps with business.
Absolutely. And it's a great thing to do because then if something does happen and it gets stuck in freight or transition or some sort of internal problem happens and you can't deliver it until 5 days, you're still ahead of time and people think that you've done a wonderful job. So it gives you that leeway if things do go wrong. If, for instance, you're sick on the day it arrives and you can't deliver it that day, if that was your 3-day window, you would have to do it anyway. It's a great technique to use. And then if you can surprise your customer and give it to them early, then even better. And that becomes a wonderful customer service experience for them. Okay, so we're looking at our expectations. We're looking at making sure that we are meeting our customers when they do complain and not taking it as a personal attack on ourselves, that they do have a problem with the service that needs to be fixed. And that's actually a great thing because then you can address that. And if you're coming up with the same problem over and over, then there really is some sort of major issue, and that's also something you need to address. So that's perfect. Okay, so then where should we be looking now? What other tips can we go with?
So I always like to add extra value to anything that I'm doing with my customers. Again, I'm going to kind of use my experience to explain things, but because I am in the makeup industry, what I like to do is, yes, I'll sell my customer an eyeshadow, but I like to give free value in 2 different ways, in a physical form and then also in another way. So for instance, I will give my customer a free eyeshadow brush. It's gone beyond their expectations. They weren't expecting it, so it's a nice little surprise. So it gives them that little boost. This is more important. So I'm giving them free value as in I want to teach them how to actually use the makeup. So I will do a video for them or I'll do a live video for them or I'll invite them round to my house or invite myself to theirs and if they want it. And I will say, hey, let's sit down. I'm actually going to give you a free makeup lesson. This is how you apply the makeup. And also, I just wanted to mention that I feel like it's very, very important to not oversell your product as well. I know sometimes we can be so enthusiastic about our product and our service, but if you oversell the product, you're guaranteed that there's going to be a disappointment somewhere along the line with that customer. So what I mean by that is, for instance, if I told you, Cathy, that if you put my lipstick on, it would stay on your face for a week. That's me overselling the lipstick because it doesn't stay on for a week. It stays on for up to 18 hours, but you have to be reasonable. And I know it's so easy to run away with the enthusiasm and the excitement about your baby, your project, your business that you love and adore.
Yes, true. And I guess the other thing is that there's different variables too, because it might stay on for a week if I kept applying it, but you've neglected that little bit. And also it might be a case if I haven't applied it properly in the first place and I keep picking at it. So it's gone within a few hours as opposed to staying on the life of the product if I'd actually followed the instructions, done the 3 coats and done it as per it's supposed to be. So there's all those different variables. If people haven't put the right petrol in the car, then the car's not going to run the whole length of time. If they haven't perhaps applied that coat that needs to go onto a piece of furniture or something like that. So whatever the aftercare service is, if they haven't done that, then even though the product is guaranteed for a certain amount of time, it may not actually last that if it hasn't been looked after correctly.
Exactly. It's educating your customer, isn't it? And it's holding their hand through the process. So don't just shove a product in their face and away they go and they have to figure out how to do it. They need to know how to use the products, how to work it. Like you say, look, with the furniture, let's say you're selling the furniture polish. How often do I have to apply this? What should I be expecting from this product? Does it stop chips or does it just make it water repellent? It's so important to be communicating and educating your customers. And I also think it's very important to be checking in with your customers as well. Because I know sometimes, especially when you first start out in a business, the prospect of having any kind of rejection is frightening. And that actually will sometimes put you off going to your customer and just getting some feedback from them. How are you going with your product? Is there anything that I can do to help you? Because you are afraid that customer is going to turn around and say, actually, I don't like it. Or actually, I haven't been using it because I don't know how to use it. If that's the case, you need the feedback because you need to be learning from the experiences. If a customer turns around and says to you, I don't know how to use it, well, then there's a failure on your part there because you haven't explained to them, or maybe you have, but you haven't explained to them in a way that customer understood how to use the product. So it's really important to be maintaining a relationship with the customer. And I don't mean just sales-wise either. But when I follow up with my customers, I'll make sure they're happy. If they've got any queries, obviously, I'll address them for them. But I also will just message my customer and say, hey, how are you doing today? Especially with the recent environment that we've been going through with the whole COVID thing. I've been messaging my customers today, how are you coping with your kids at home? What are you doing? What are you doing to entertain the kids? I'm having conversations with my customers because I want them to feel as though I care about them, because I genuinely do. Okay. I make friends out of my customers. It's very important that those customers feel valued. And the way to make them feel valued is to make them feel that you feel that they are a person, not just dollar signs. A lot of people will make the mistake. And it's not a judgment on somebody who's done this in the past or is doing it at the moment. But a lot of business owners will look at their customers simply as dollar signs. How much money can I make from this customer? And I know we're all going to business today, make money, I guess, but there's a lot more to it than that. If you're passionate about something, it needs to be more than money. It actually needs to be a person-focused business, if you like. So you need to be making sure that your customer's okay. If you know when their birthdays are, wish them a happy birthday. If you had a conversation with them then and they said, oh, my dad's gone into hospital, make a mental note. It's important. They want to feel as though they are a person to you. And then you can say to them, hey, how did your dad go? Did he have his operation? Blah, blah, blah. It's very, very important because you've got to think about how you would like to feel. How do you want to be treated by somebody who has taken your hard-earned money? You want to be treated like a person. I want to be treated like a princess, to be quite frank with you.
So there's a few things we can unpack there. It's about making sure that your instructions is what somebody knows and can then follow up. So like you were saying, you go and do a makeup tutorial with them, and then you might give them a link to a video where that they can see that later, because at the time it's all exciting and everything, and you're saying, oh, wow, look what I look like now. And you don't always take all of that in. I've found that a lot with the podcast. When I go back and edit it, I think, oh, I didn't actually hear that. And I'm really conscious of being an active listener, but you don't always hear everything, and especially the moment when it's all exciting. So a checklist or a link to a video or something that they can go back and look at later on is always a great thing. And then the other thing you were saying about the customer being more than just a sale. Often say in marketing that the sale is actually on in the middle of the journey. So the beginning of the journey is obviously they've got a problem and they need to find a place to solve it. The middle of the journey is the actual sale, the thing that will help solve their problem. And then the after is the rest of the journey, and it is that following up. And if they didn't actually listen and know how to use the product, or if they're having some sort of issue with it and they may not want to actually contact you and complain because they don't want to make a fuss. But by just having that quick text message or any of the other messaging platforms or a phone call, which is, of course, the new latest, oldest, but newest way to connect with people, because people don't like to make phone calls these days, but they love to receive them, and get that information. It might make such a difference. And then it also might make that they're a repeat buyer, because sometimes the unhappy customers, if you do the right thing and make them happy again, they will actually become your advocates. They will be the ones that will spruik your name and your business. And I had this lipstick and it didn't quite work. The colour wasn't right, but I got back to Em and she fixed it all and we're wonderful. And therefore, then they'll buy again.
I actually had that exact experience, Cathy. So one of my customers, she's a lovely lady, and she tried my lipstick. She bought the lipstick. She came back to me a week later and she said, "You'll laugh," because she said to me, "Em, I don't like the lipstick because it stays on too long." So, and I was surprised, because that's the point of my product, obviously. But I said to her, "You know, that's absolutely fine," because I understand. I was, in a way, I was actually quite pleased. It had stayed on so long for her. You know, it does what it says on the tin. So that was a great experience in that respect. However, I said, "Do you know, that's absolutely fine." It depends obviously on your business and what you have, but what you have available to you. But for me personally, I actually have a satisfaction guarantee. So I took the product back from the customer. I refunded her the money. I was actually very apologetic about it because she liked me and she liked my service. She just didn't like the product. I made her feel comfortable enough, though, to say, "Hey, no, I want you to be happy." I took back everything. Since then, she has come back to me and she has bought other products from me that she does love. She's bought foundations, eyeliners, but not just that. She has told every single person that she knows that wears makeup about me. She has introduced me to so many new customers, so many new business owners. My exposure really blasted open just because she said to me, "Em, I don't really like your lipstick." Because of the way I guess I handled it, I'm just talking to you from experience, because I handled it in a kind way and I made her feel comfortable enough to, yes, return the product. Let's just make you happy. The experience for me, oh my goodness, was just amazing, because I now have so much more customers. This lady is a friend of mine. I really appreciate what she does. She's a business owner herself. It was a fantastic experience. I got to learn from it, and I now have a bigger business because of it also.
And that's a perfect opportunity because, yeah, it wasn't a fault of the product, so you really didn't have to refund it. You'd done everything you said. But by doing that goodwill and by keeping that customer happy, you've now got a lifeline customer who is an advocate. So it was a win for everybody. And yes, you took a slight financial dip on that, but on the flip side, you've made so much more money out of it.
Exactly. And that kind of bears back down to being a people-centered person, doesn't it? If I was in it for the money, just for the money, I wouldn't have refunded her. I would have lost her custom. I would have lost her circle of friends that she has exposed me to.
So sometimes it's a case of you've just got to do a bit of a cha-cha, step backwards to step forwards, and sometimes going round will make it even better.
Exactly.
Perfect. What other tips could you suggest we should be looking at with customer service?
I think one of the main things for me is being authentic. Now, I know sometimes you feel as though you have to show up in a job in a particular way. Maybe you feel you have to be uber professional. You have to keep a straight face, no jokes. Yeah, it really does obviously depend on what your business is, I suppose, because if you're selling something very serious, then I guess you don't really want to be joking and messing around. Then if you are a jokey, messing around person, you're probably not going to be in a serious business. Does this make sense? You've got to have a business that really resonates with you, that you are really very passionate about. Because if you don't, what happens is then you do find yourself changing your personality in front of your customers. And customers can smell that a mile off. If you are not genuine, not authentic, what happens is you'll stumble for your words. You won't be confident in your product. You won't be confident in yourself, because a lot of selling is actually selling yourself. If you're selling yourself, because people like to buy from people. For instance, for me, my customers can buy my product from a multitude of people who sell exactly the same product, but there's a reason why they purchase it from me. If I was pretending to be somebody, oh my goodness, that would be exhausting to have to continue with this persona and remember, oh my gosh, who was I with this person? What was it that I was trying to sell and what was it I was trying to push? You have to really be genuine about it. If you have a product line and there is something in your product line that you don't particularly love, or it doesn't necessarily work for you, you can say that to your customer. It's actually okay to say that to your customer, be honest. I've got some of my products, I'll say, do you know what, I actually don't use that product because for one reason or another, I don't need it. It actually doesn't suit my skin type or something like that. If I was being ingenuine, unauthentic, I maybe would tell a porky pie and say, oh yes, that product's amazing and it does this, that and the other. But I'm going to feel very uncomfortable doing that. My customer's going to smell it a mile off, because she'll see how the conversation has changed from me being authentic to all of a sudden, oh, not quite so authentic, unless you are an amazing actor. Please just be authentic, be genuine. If you are passionate about your product, it's going to come across. I don't sell anything. All I do is share my product because I love it. And it really is. Now, I'm going to say it is as easy as that. I don't mean running a business is easy, because let's face it, it's not, is it? It's hard work, but it's worth it.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing. If you love your product and you genuinely would want to use it yourself, then that definitely does show through. Yeah, it makes it so much easier when you're thinking about just sharing your experience. And I know a lot of salespeople and marketing people say, well, if you had the cure for X, wouldn't you want to tell your family and friends and prospects about that? So sometimes it's actually a disservice not telling somebody about a service or a product that could help them. So just think about it as, not so much as being the icky car salesman, but just, here's my thing that could help solve your problem. If you'd like it, that's great. If not, then that's okay too. And that doesn't mean that we don't have to be friends anymore or we can't talk anymore. And with some people, it takes a lot of touch points before they'll actually not even trust, but want to buy the product, or they have to be in the right place. I had one customer that I used to meet up with every now and again, and over a 4 or 5 year period before she actually became a customer, because at the time she had somebody else doing the service. She didn't need me. And then there was a crack in that service and it didn't work out for whatever reason. So then she started looking around, and because we'd become friendly, then she said, well, can you give me a quote? And then it ended up going from there. And now she's been a customer for a good 10 years. So sometimes it's just a case of them being in the right place. Yeah, never discount anybody as a customer, even when you think that they may not be able to afford your services, because that's assumption on your part, not theirs.
Exactly. That's actually something that I've been very guilty of as well myself in the past, is you should never underestimate what people have in their pocket, I suppose, but not just that, but never underestimate how many people are watching you as well. This is something that I've been learning over the last couple of years, because I do a lot of my business on social media. When you show up on social media, you don't always know who's watching you. You do get your regulars, you do get your fan base, but you might not necessarily know about them until 2 years later. So exactly what you just said, Cathy, one of my friends actually was following my page. She hadn't liked my page, she had followed my page. So when she was watching my videos, it didn't say to me, oh, so-and-so was watching my videos. It took her 2 years to come to me and say, hey, I do want to try your product now. And she had said to me, I watched every single one of your videos. And another example of that as well, you just don't know who's watching. The lady who owns my company, who I actually purchased my products from wholesale. I met her in the flesh. She's an American lady. She's lovely. I met her in the flesh twice now. And the last time I met her, she said to me, I watch every single one of your videos. And I didn't know. I had no idea. So that was a big wake-up call for me. Good job I'm showing up and doing the right thing, because the big boss lady was watching. But what I'm trying to say is that you don't know who's watching you. Your best friend or your mum or someone who has never used your product or never used your services, and they might be watching you, and they will be them. If you're showing up in the right way and you're being genuine and authentic, they will be talking about you to their other people. They may not need your product or service, because we need to remember that as well. Not every person that we encounter needs or wants our product or service. If you're showing up in the right way and you're giving people a really good experience, you're giving them the Cathy experience or the M experience, they're going to like you, hopefully. And then even if they don't need your product, they will tell somebody else, oh, guess what? I met this girl the other day. She sells Lippy, blah, blah, blah. Here's her card, or whatever. I think you'd like her. People will talk about you. They will recommend you, even if they have not purchased from you.
Yes, and that's something people need to remember, and especially in your kind of industry where there are literally thousands of people selling exactly the same products. It's all about that connection, that service. And yes, talking to everybody is talking to nobody, but you don't know who's on the fringes of that circle. So you've got your inner circle that are your perfect customers. And then if you think of it as a circle, outside of that circle is the next area who are not quite your perfect customers, but still could be interested. And then outside of that, of course, you've got the people who will never become your customers, but you don't know who they know. So they might be a gentleman, for instance, that's hearing about their girlfriend whinging about their lipstick coming off on their coffee cup. And they go, actually, I saw this lady at a networking event or online or wherever you come in contact. Yeah, you might give her a call. She sounded like she knew what she was talking about. And sometimes those kind of referrals can be the best ones and generate business for year after year. So I think there's some really valuable tips there for people to think about, Em, and especially for the audience. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about customer service?
I think we've covered most things, really. Just recapping, giving your customers extra value, treating them as people, not just dollars, and listening. It's very important to learn to listen. You know, when you do face objections, then face them head on. Take a breath. Don't invite your feelings to the party because they can get in the way. Your ego can get in the way when there's, maybe something not quite so negative. Under promise, over deliver. Communication is key. That's it, really, I think, from me. Just be authentic and be genuine.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I'm sure a lot of people would get some great tips out of that. And sometimes, even though we know this stuff, it's a case of getting it back to top of mind. So at this point in the podcast, I ask all my guests 5 questions, and we call them the final 5. Are you game?
Oh, yes, I'm game.
What is the best advice ever given to you by a mentor?
It's none of my business what other people think of me.
I love that. That's a good one. What's the biggest help you've received since starting your business?
Biggest help I have received has come from several different places, but has come from people who have given me free advice and have given up their time for me for free to show me how to do something. It's come from people that I've met who I've built relationships with, and they genuinely want to help me.
Well done. What is the one thing that you have to do every day, your non-negotiable?
Physically, I have to put on my lippy. I have to meditate every day. I need my me time to reset, to fill my cup so that I can still be providing everything that everybody else needs.
And that's so important. Sometimes we forget about ourselves, don't we? The airlines have really got it nailed when they say, look after you first, and then you can help everybody else. What is your favourite business book and why?
My favourite is The Go-Giver.
And you're a girl after my own heart.
Oh, I love it. And I'm actually I've got it actually on an audio book. I'm actually listening to the Go Influencer at the moment as well. So that might be my new one, my new favorite.
You're the first person who's ever said The Go-Giver, and that's probably my most favorite business book. I've got the first two, so I need to jump in and get the next three because I think there's 5 or 6 now. The influencer one might be interesting.
Yes, I think when you find something that really resonates with you, then you love it, don't you?
Bob Berg also has a podcast called the Go-Giver Podcast, so check that out as well. Kind of interesting. He looks at different people who have done different portions of the book, and we'll drop that in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
What do you wish you had known when you started out?
I wish I had known to have trusted my full potential at the beginning. Because when I started, I was floundering. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't really know what I was doing. But if I had known to trust my instincts back then, I think I would have felt a lot more comfortable about what I was doing.
Well done you, and you've certainly grown a long way since those days. So fabulous. So if people would like to know more about you or get some of your fabulous lipsticks, skincare, makeup range, where can they find you, Em?
Well, obviously I'm on Facebook, so M's Forever Lips on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm also on YouTube, so you can catch my tutorials that I do on YouTube as well. Yeah, or you can just look me up, Emma Carver. Just look me up there. But I'm everywhere. I do markets. I do one-on-ones, I do demonstrations, I do, the whole party plan thing.
Very good. So thank you, Em. Appreciate your time and your wisdom and the tips you've given to us today on customer service.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Don't forget to subscribe to Small Business Talk podcast and head on over to smallbusinesstalk.com.au/downloads. For all the show notes and links to this episode. Remember, to be great, you must start. Pick one tip from today's episode, take action and implement it. Let's meet again next week at the same time and place. Until then, take action. And SBT community, enjoy your journey.